All right, welcome in KSO Postgame Live. Mason Voth, KSU fan, Drew Galloway here after a K-State loss to KU. First one at home for Jerome Tang at K-State. It also coincides with the worst home loss for K-State to KU since 2002. For a reminder, K-State not very good that year. They were 13-16, 6-10 in the Big 12. Boy, that's probably more wins in conference play than this team's going to end up getting. This was Jim Woldridge's second year at K-State when they suffered that loss. The year prior against KU at home, they had only lost by 12. But that's where K-State sits right now, that this is the worst loss in 24 years at home against KU. Now, obviously, in those 24 years, there's only been X amount of wins during that stretch, but a lot of them, more than people would probably think, even in the losses, have been competitive. You think about Bruce Weber's worst team at K-State. Well, one of them beat KU inexplicably. I think the one game that Marcus Foster and his crew decided to show up for as sophomores. And then even the COVID year that got shut down, that team was terrible. And they were in it to the very end. They ended up losing by 4. And then we know Bruce's last team was in a heck of a fight. I mean, one of the more exhilarating back and forths between Ochai Agbaji and Nigel Pack in that game. There's at least been fight. There's at least been something there. And that clearly was missing tonight for K-State because they led KU in the game on a 27-7 run over the last 8 minutes of the contest. K-State had dropped it all the way down to a 4-point game after Jerome Tang had gotten a technical foul that allowed KU to push the lead up to double digits. K-State gave a little bit of a push, and then they didn't give anymore. So that is kind of the defining part of the night. Obviously, there were a lot of people missing from this game. Darren Peterson, massive for KU to be missing. And this isn't supposed to come off as a dig at him or what KU had to overcome. But I do think in this circumstance, what K-State was missing probably meant more. Obviously, we've seen this team all year. It was not going to be enough to get them over the hump tonight, but maybe would have given them a better option to keep it a little bit tighter. But K-State's undermanned right now. That's really not the point, though, because when they have been full staffed essentially as a team, it hasn't mattered this season. This team's not good. This program is not in great shape. And I do laugh at and I appreciate it. You know, this is what rivalries are about, the KU fans in the comments trying to troll and all this other stuff. Yeah, I mean, go for it. I talked about this weeks ago where I've seen KU and Iowa State fans trying to make fun of K-State on Twitter. And I'm like the mom from Step Brothers where it's nasty, but I want to join in sometimes. Like, I'm to that point too. K-State basketball is at the stage right now that KU football was at for a decade, where it's like, you cannot say or do anything to impact my life to dig at this basketball program because it is so disconnected from actual K-State fans right now, where, you know, other people voiced it. I totally agree. This is the least impactful one of these games has ever been in my life as a K-Stater, somebody that grew up in a home with K-State parents. And, you know, my only goal in life until I was 18 was to go to K-State. And then I went to K-State and it was a big part of my life for 4 years. It just, nothing about this is impactful to me. It's a dead program right now. And what I will emphasize this with, and then I'll let you guys get your thoughts on it out, is the irony of Jerome Tang 3 years ago getting up there and doing the expect to win from here on out thing. Wildly hilarious now that we sit in this position in 2026 because his team just got beat by the worst margin against KU since 2002. That's not very good. Jerome Tang goes into the student section and is wah-bashing after beating Utah, who's terrible, by 3 points at home the other night for the first win of Big 12 play. That's not a guy acting like he expects to win. I don't care, you know, if it happens after a certain amount of conference games or whatever. It's going to look clownish. And at this point, when you're as bad as K-State is, it's not going to turn out well. But more than anything, going from expect to win to the stage that they're in now, this is the first time in my life that, and again, I grew up right as K-State was getting ready to turn the corner and becoming good at basketball again. And I've seen, some bad Bruce years and everything, but this is truly the first time in my life that I expect K-State to lose every game they play in, where I can't even get myself talked into seeing a path or making sense of, oh yeah, well, if this happens, they could do this, or well, they're actually not that bad. And maybe that ties into me being so just distance from this team and in this current situation to not even like have that passion in me to want to try to stick up and defend what's going on right now. But that's the position that we're in. This is just, it's all so meaningless at this point. And this isn't a game to emphasize this, but because of the opponent and the emotion and energy that should go into this game, this should kind of be one of those kind of last grasp moments for this team to have a chance to kind of show some of that, or at least do something. And they fell flat on their face tonight, shorthanded or not. It was inexcusable to get bullied the way that they did. And I'm not going to put it on the players. They're all here because of, whatever reason. Like this is just a program thing and a staff thing. And it starts with Jerome Tang and it bleeds down to all of his assistants that are helping him ruin K-State basketball.
Yeah, it's a tough. I mean, the only time I felt less positive going into a KU game probably the last 15 years was not the last year of Bruce, but the second and third to last years of Bruce, when K-State just simply had bad teams. Like those were bad teams, and this one is bad. But you thought going into this game, KU's without obviously and clearly their best player and one of the best players in the Big 12. Surely you can put together a little bit of fight and defensive effort. And the thing is, K-State kind of did for 28 minutes, but the last or 32 minutes, but the last 8 minutes was so bad. You get outscored 27-7, and then you end up giving up 1.32 points per possession to KU without their best player, which is the 9th worst defensive efficiency K-State has allowed in the Big 12 era. So this was the 9th worst team defensive game for a K-State team in the last 20-some years, and that's KU without Daryl Peterson. So to be at that state in that finish, K-State gets beat on second chance points 21-11, gets beat in the paint 46-18, and KU makes 64% from two. K-State makes 34% from two. Just a physical beating and getting punked on your home floor by your rival without their best player is just not acceptable. I mean, I thought KU would wear K-State down, but I didn't think K-State would quit. And I think this team quit the last 8 minutes of the game, and that's a sad state to be at.
Yeah, I mean, the way that it played out, the points in the paint thing, that was apparent early and pretty funny. And the part about that made it stand out even more was the fact that it wasn't like I expected, because I thought it would be Flory Badunga early and often tonight for KU, and it really wasn't him until late. He went on that little flurry at the end, which, by the way, much appreciation, Flory, for my bold predictions translated to real life decisions, where I laughed at the odds that were given for Badunga and Haggerty to score 20 or more points tonight. So that was a nice little payday in the Voth household. My kids will be able to afford to go to K-State now, thanks to that one. No Hutch Community College for those guys. They're girls, and that's going to piss my mom off. She hates when I refer to them as dudes. But anyways, he wasn't even the story in it. And like, that's the guy that was going to kill you tonight. You just let the other guys do it to start with. And the other funny thing about this, you see Kostic there tonight with 12 points, 4 of 7 from 3. Those were his only shots. He came in, got hot, and got it going. Like, Andre Kostic is really the only reason that this thing was a game at any point tonight, because K-State had gotten down 9, and he came in and back-to-back threes to tie it up and get them within a bucket. And so, if Jerome Tang doesn't have to swallow his pride and again be wishy-washy on the stuff that he's tried to really stand his ground on this season, that doesn't happen. And it's a blowout from start to finish. And the Kostic situation, it raises a lot of questions that we've had already. We've talked about it a lot this year. He should have been playing more at various points. If you want to say that, well, his defense is keeping him off the floor, this entire team sucks at defense. So what's it matter if Andre Kostic isn't very good at it? He at least has something that he could give you on that side of things. But it's just like last year, Doug McDaniel, only played 5 minutes in that game at Wichita State, wasn't playing at all. And then inexplicably, he just gets to start just because against Cincinnati. And it's like, yeah, overlook all the stuff that we didn't like and we were keeping him in the doghouse for. Let him play. Just let him do it. And that has happened repeatedly, where it's just, oh, well, actually, this thing that we were really passionate about, we're going to flip our stance on it. And it's the same way that they've decided to build rosters, where it's, well, we want to have roster continuity. Well, actually, no, we don't. We want to, this is where it's like, not to be mean, but it's just the reality of the situation. This staff is in a position where they're in over their heads. It's clear to see. I don't think that they are meant to be in this position. We see that now after 3 failed seasons. You were very fortunate to strike gold with Marquise Noel sticking around. Keontae Johnson obviously had a very specific situation that gave him a limited pool of options. And they did do a good job that first year of catching lightning in a bottle and getting a bunch of guys that worked well together. But they haven't been able to recapture it, and it does make that look a whole lot flukier. Kevin Keats went to a Final Four. He got fired the next year because he wasn't very good. Wayne Tinkle has been to an Elite Eight. It's not like he's anything special at Oregon State. It happens. And that's kind of where we're seeing this for K-State, and moves like Andre Kostic getting to play, Marcus Johnson getting minutes before the under 16 tonight. I get that you're limited, but it's, if you've got hills to die on, actually go die on them. And that's where this thing's a problem right now, is the team is not good, but they're not doing anything to uphold any sort of standards in the program.
They just have no answers, and they haven't had answers for a while. Like they haven't had an answer for anything since the Naquan Tomlin incident. I mean, if you want to go back that far, like that's when this thing really started to unravel, was when they didn't have an answer for that, and they didn't have an answer for like what was a backup guard and could maybe get Tyler Perry off the ball every once in a while, went down. Like they had no answer for that. So I mean, looking at tonight, it's like they played pretty well for about 32 minutes, and then the shot that just sealed it was Nate Johnson is all by himself to cut the game down to 2, and he barely grazes the rim. And then Taj Manning gets fouled going for the rebound 70 feet from the basket, and Marco Jackson gets it back to 7, and it's boom, feels over. And it really was from that moment on. I think when I posted that, that's when it felt like it was over. That's when fan pointed out that KU had outscored K-State 14-3 in like a 4-minute stretch. So I mean that was when it was truly over. Incredibly frustrating still that Andre Kostic has this awesome first half, and everybody, and especially awesome and frustrating when you see the KU fans saying, "Oh, of course he's having this game." It's like, no, Andre Kostic, we thought this was going to be him all year. He just doesn't play for whatever reason. And then just no fight at the end, no care. Bill Self showed more disgust and care for K-State at the end of the game than the K-State players did. Like Bill Self was ripping Trey White a new one when he went ahead and dunked it when KU was already up 22, and kind of ripping into Melvin Council a little bit for still putting the pressure on. Melvin Council's doing the Wabash at midcourt. Nobody on K-State cares. Like it, I would just like them to show some emotion for once. Like that's kind of been the downfall of this season a little bit. It kind of coincides a little bit like football or basketball. Everybody just wants them to show more emotion. And this basketball team somehow has less emotion than the football team showed.
Well,
Like
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like there was zero like motivation and charged when K-State was getting the game close or took the lead at points. That there was no celebration from really anybody, and that was kind of odd and disappointing, and just I don't know, it just feels weird when you're thinking about that of like it's a rivalry game. The crowd was pretty juiced up and pretty loud and pretty big for the circumstances surrounding the entire game. I mean, the three of us all thought that we were going to be there, and we're all three in different places tonight because of how the storms went. So that is kind of the killer here of like, I don't know, when you come in and get punked on your home court in front of a big crowd, in front of a really good crowd that literally risked lives to get to the game, it just doesn't really sit right with me.
It's a good point. I mean, the fact that K-State was able to end up with over 9,000 in the building tonight for the announced attendance is impressive given the weather conditions. Because I know, there was a picture beforehand, or maybe right around tip off that I saw from somebody in the building. And like student crowd, obviously very full. Even they probably deserve some credit for getting outside to go attend this and pack in for it. And like really the only place that had empty seats was where the older crowd will sit. And I don't blame them. They have to come from Wichita, Kansas City, Topeka, Lawrence, wherever to come to this game. Probably not worth it with the way that the weather was looking like it was going to shake out for everybody tonight. And so you get a really strong crowd given the environment outside, given what's taking place inside the building for K-State basketball this year, and you blow it. And to what you're talking about showing emotion, Drew, there was a lot of talk during this week, and there has been for a little bit now, PJ Haggerty's demeanor and his lack of emotion. And some were on the side like, hey, that's just the type of guy he is. Others view it a different way. And we talked about it more specifically this week in a thread over at KSO. And the thing that stood out to me is, PJ Haggerty and Avery Johnson, I think, have very similar demeanors in terms of not too much gets them too high or too low. When things are going bad, they're going to stay pretty locked in, pretty steady, not show it too much. But there is a difference in terms of the amount of energy and effort and care that they are putting into something. And that sticks out to me now, especially after what we've seen tonight and throughout the season. And, there was one play tonight where PJ Haggerty actually did show a little bit of effort. When it came, though, was on a KU miss that bounced a little further out, so the bigs weren't going to get the rebound. And it was a ball that was available to where if he goes and grabs it, he might have a chance to get down the floor and actually score with it, as opposed to, one of those typical loose balls that you might be able to go and get. And then we saw other times where after turnovers or really bad misses, and Lord knows he had a lot of them tonight. I don't know what his plan was on offense half of the evening. And it was back to being a guy that wasn't going to get down there. And the thing that I pointed out in the middle of the week was when K-State was in Salt Lake City this year for football, and probably should have been PI that was picked up on the 2-point conversion play that Utah ends up taking back for a pretty consequential 2 points. Avery Johnson ran the length of the field to try to catch the DB that had it. And so that's not a guy that gave up. And when typically in those moments, a lot of guys give up and you say, okay, whatever, because I saw a bunch of KU players in 2023 give up when Keenan Garber was streaking down the sideline for 2 points in that game. Like, there's a difference here. You can be a cool customer, but you have to be able to have that flair and the effort that's there. Avery Johnson has that. There are other players that have that. I just don't think PJ Haggerty has it. And maybe it's because of the situation he's in where he just decides, really the only thing that's valuable to me right now is trying to get mine and score. And that's where K-State's in kind of a chicken or the egg situation. Like, was Coleman Hawkins or Doug again, I'm not going to talk about Doug. We know Doug's situation. But was Coleman Hawkins in the position he was in last year because that's who he is? Or he got here and was pretty quickly alienated and realized, I've made a big mistake. I just got to do my thing and hope that it works out for me. And if everybody else is going to finally catch up to it, great. If not, whatever. And I'll give PJ Haggerty that benefit of the doubt here. And for his sake, I hope that it's just he realizes that this is a dead dog situation and he's got to do what he can to self-preserve. But he wasn't very good tonight. He made poor decision after poor decision with the ball on offense, got himself into unwinnable situations, and that just can't happen. Like, we saw a really good night from him against Utah on Tuesday. We saw a really bad night from him this evening. And I think hopefully more people got to see what K-State fans have seen all season, that he can score 23 points in a game. It doesn't mean that he played a good game. It's a lot of empty scoring from PJ Haggerty.
I'll say one more thing about the game, like as a whole, and then we can either keep going with this some more or talk about just like the frustration of the whole season. I am sick of the last two games. K-State playing a really balanced game on offense in the first half, and everybody kind of getting their own and being a team that's hard to guard for 20 minutes. And then the second half, it's just like, okay, PJ, here you go. Go save us. Go try and get 20 or 30. Because they become so much easier to guard. Like, there is a reason that K-State didn't shoot nearly as well in the second half and shot horrible from three in the second half compared to the first half. And it was because the ball just stuck in PJ Haggerty's hands and they had no plan and there was no adjustment. Like, I was talking with a fan about it too, of like, there was no adjustment to how KU was playing K-State. It was still PJ Haggerty has it way up high and they're starting their offense 35 feet from the basket to try and get anything going on offense. And it's like, if you brought in Matthew Driscoll to save this because the offense has been so bad the last 2 years, what is he doing if you can't make an adjustment during the game? Because that's how teams have been playing all season. And if your second half offense is just, hey, go save us and try and get to the foul line and make 80% of them, like that's not going to beat anybody in this league besides Utah because they're worse than K-State.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It was pretty much the same plan against today as against Utah, and thinking, well, we can't shoot this many threes, which I understand to a point, but you're going to go beat Utah. Like you said, they're the worst defense in the league. KU is not, and Bill Self's going to have a plan. I thought he had a great plan in the first half to really make it tough for PJ Haggerty, and it did. And then he finally got a few free throws down the stretch, and he got his points in the second half. He still scored 23 points and was getting what he could in the second half. But that's not going to beat any good team, and it's not going to beat KU. And KU is not at the level of teams like Arizona and BYU and Iowa State and Texas Tech that are in Houston, which those five teams are clearly better than KU this season, especially without Peterson on the floor. And it just falls apart. And we just continue to see, I thought the culture would be better this year, but we're seeing it get worse every season, the last 3 seasons. I thought this year would be better, but for whatever reason, it's worse. And we're seeing the breakdowns on this team even more frequent. We're seeing even the last 2 years, K-State had the 4th best defense in the Big 12 in Big 12 play, and now they're down to the bottom. They're not as bad as Arizona State. They lost to in Utah.
What I think that is?
But it's crazy.
Is that this team, like, I didn't think that they would have problems like the last couple of years in terms of some of that stuff, but it goes back to what we've just been talking about. What Drew is emphasizing is that last year, Doug McDaniel, massive problem child for K-State, has been everywhere he's been. Wasn't allowed to play in road games at Michigan. Memphis is a freaking train wreck this year. They just lost to Tulsa and Wichita State this week. Blowouts to Tulsa and Wichita State. Coleman Hawkins, obviously prickly personality, didn't get it going here at K-State. We understand why that would happen. Some of the other things that go on within this program. But with that, those guys would have moments where they were fired up and they were engaged, because people that are wired a certain way, they are going to have that, okay, let's go. Even once you get into the fight, all that other stuff can be set aside and you're locked in. Like, those were guys that, even with, the shortcomings in their play or some of the things that happened off the court, once they were on the floor for 40 minutes, they were going to play hard and stuff was going to bother them, or they were going to try to I don't think that this team has too much of that. And you wonder to what extent is that the players that they've brought in, which again, you would say that's a miss on the recruiting side of it. You can bring in a few players like that. You can't have everybody be like that. Just like you can have a few players that are a defensive liability. You have to have enough guys that can make up for it. But how much of that is the players you brought in, or is that the wear and tear of the last 2 seasons and this thing spiraling further out of control for Jerome Tang and his staff, is them letting it get to this point and not being able to inspire that in these guys. And, I'll say this too. Jerome Tang, after the game, called out Nate Johnson and David Castillo, saying that they have to each play better. Look, Nate Johnson absolutely has to. I like David Castillo's not playing well, but I don't think it's anything that like he's doing, like failing to try to do. I think Nate Johnson, there's something there where they either completely whiffed or he's been beaten down in this thing, because it's totally different now. And there is a lot of bad that I can see there. Castillo, it's just things aren't going properly at this point in time. But it's an absolute disaster right now for K-State.
Yeah, I mean, Nate Johnson was the MAC Defensive Player of the Year for whatever that's worth, and you don't see that. You saw early in the year him playing with energy, looking like he could be a very good asset and a good complement to PJ Haggerty on the perimeter, even through probably the Nebraska game. But the last half of the season, he has just so often disappeared, has no confidence getting to the rim, finishing in the paint, drawing fouls. Once in a while, we'll make some shots, but he goes 1 of 5 from 3 tonight. And we mentioned the big miss when the game was still competitive in the last 10 minutes of the game. That's what's crazy. It was competitive into the last 10 minutes of the game, and then you miss that shot, and then everything just falls apart. And I agree with you on Castillo. He's got potential to be a very solid player for this program still. He's so small that makes it tougher on him. He tried to go inside and finish tonight. He finished 1 of 6 on twos. It's just tough when you're that small, and KU has so much size to go inside and finish. And he was by far not the problem tonight. Like I don't know why you'd be calling out David Castillo tonight after the game. You should call yourself out for not figuring out you should be playing Andre Kostic the whole season to get him ready to play in a game like this. I mean, there's a reason he can only play 14 or 15 minutes at the most, because he hasn't played. Like, you're not going to get in game shape by practicing. You've got to play in games, and the guy just has not played all year. And when you see what he can do tonight in a short burst, no, you don't expect that every night, but you see the potential and what we were sold he was going to be, and then you just never play him. And it's not like you holding guys out has worked before. Like, you tried to hold Doug McDaniel out last year and make CJ Jones the starting point guard. Like, that was legitimately a thing last year. Obviously, that didn't work.
CJ should be battle tested for the minutes he's getting right now. Then
you have all these things, and then you just have to put so much stock into PJ Haggerty because you paid him the money and he's your star, and everything's got to play through him. And then I think you eventually lose everybody else, because what are you going to do? And we talked about the last 2 games, him being the focus in the second half, and it's not going to work against good teams, and everybody else is not going to buy in.
And I just think, like, if you shouldn't be calling just 2 guys out tonight. Everybody played poorly. Like, you can find massive, like, PJ Haggerty did not play well tonight. He didn't play awful, but like, he was 6 of 17. He got a lot of his scoring at the free throw line, a number of it when the game was already out of hand. And he was just, again, you're down big, and PJ Haggerty's trying to get to the free throw line.
He feels a little bit like Derek Carr, does he not? Like the basketball equivalent of Derek Carr.
Oh, I mean, he's Matt Stafford with the Lions. That's better than Derek Carr, but like, the Lions were always down 2 scores, and it's like, oh, Stafford threw for 400 yards again. And it's like, well, he had no choice but to throw the ball the entire second half. Like, I've got a friend that still refers to him as Stat Padford. And like, that's what PJ Haggerty is kind of in the position of being right now. So I think it's wrong to call out Nate Johnson and David Castillo tonight, even if I would agree that like Johnson's got something miswired there and not going well right now. But nobody played well tonight. Like the best was probably Kostic giving you that spurt, and he should have been playing more. We talked about it earlier this week. Why do you not play him in November against crappy teams? And if his defense sucks, well, it's not going to cost you against Mississippi Valley State. So let him get out there, let him get some run instead of just, hey, you know what? You want 20 minutes against Kansas tonight? Okay, go for it. We got no choice. Throw you out there, that type of thing. So I don't like that approach. And I did chuckle at Scott Wildcat's tweet about hoping that David Castillo made a comment about Jerome Tang and the coaches needed to coach better. Ron also said, so the Frosh at Illinois had 46, was Gatorade Kansas Player of the Year, and Tang never offered him a scholarship. I do think we need to address this because this is obviously blown up recently. I mean, I think there's probably on the KU side people going, how did you not get a Kansas kid that's scoring 46 as a freshman at Purdue? Here's the deal. I'll defend a lot of teams for not offering Keaton Wagler, who is the player for Illinois that's been tearing it up. He's averaging 16, 5, and 4 this year for the Fighting Illini, shooting almost 40% from three as well. He only had 2 power conference offers last year from Illinois and Minnesota. So it wasn't like he was, highly or heavily recruited.
People would have freaked out if they added him last year.
But
now it looks bad in retrospect.
Well,
yes.
I don't even care about retrospect. He could have been performing a year from now or whatever as a sophomore. What looks bad is the fact that this staff did go semi-locally to add a high schooler in Xavier Wilson, who's redshirting and hasn't played this year, who was a 3-star also ran guy. They took Ashton McGee, who then they said, thanks, don't want you get your butt out of our class after like 2 weeks, which looked really bad. That is the problem for K-State, is that, again, we want to point out all these recruiting flaws, like they are doing minimal high school recruiting. How do you miss a guy that was that under-recruited and not try to get involved if you were exploring those avenues? To me, that would be the unforgivable side of this that you look at and say, oh, so you are kind of just half-assing the high school recruiting portion of this too, even if, Xavier Wilson's a decent little project and maybe he can be a contributor sometime down the road, but you can't take 1 3-star in Kansas or Missouri and end up missing on Wagler, who's scoring 46 at Purdue to win.
No, I don't disagree with that. Like there would have been good and bad with it at the time and now, but like this staff clearly doesn't care about high school recruiting anyway. So that is the bigger problem of all of it, is that they just don't care about high school recruiting. So I guess I lied when I said that my rant about the last thing from the game. Doreen Buka tonight was good. He deserves some praise. It was a night for the Buka believers and not the Doreen doubters tonight.
If you're wanting to just stunt on me after K-State loses by 24, go for it.
8 offensive rebounds, and the thing that really is the head scratcher, I guess, of his stat line is he got his 11th rebound with like 16 minutes to go in the game and didn't get another one. Like that doesn't happen very often, but he was good tonight. His development has been fun because he's just kind of funny to watch out there, but I felt like he deserves some love.
To Big 12 fans' point, Buka was fine in the first half. He didn't do jack in the second. Well, not many guys had the opportunity to do anything in the second half because PJ Haggerty had sticky hands. K-State took 27 shots in the second half. 10 of them came from Haggerty. He also went to the free throw line 4 times. So, there wasn't a lot of love to go around for everybody else. In fact, Doreen Buka in 10 minutes, 0 shots in the second half. So he didn't have the opportunity to do a whole lot to kind of stick out there with his 10 rebounds in the first.
I would love, and maybe if I'm feeling like a true sicko, I go through and chart how many passes per possession happened in the first half compared to the second, because the second there was not many.
I thought you were going to say you're going to drive to Morgantown on Tuesday and go watch that. It's a beautiful drive.
No thanks.
So one of the other questions that came in the chat was, what is Tang's buyout? We've been over this before. The one that you'll find publicly online that links to the actual contract, that's from the first extension after the Elite Eight run for K-State. The better resource would be to go to find Kellis Robinette's story after the extension that came after year 2 when the Arkansas flirtation was there. It is north of $18 million for K-State after this season. So you can make up your mind there. I'm not going to tell you if I think K-State should be out of the Jerome Tang business. You probably can infer from the way that the three of us have talked there. But again, it could be a number that's just too cumbersome to abandon right now. But again, that falls at the feet of Gene Taylor, and this falls into a greater Gene Taylor conversation that, like, tonight's probably not really the point for it, especially because we had it at times during football season and he got bailed out because Chris Kleinman, and out of the goodness of his heart and the respect for the program and the respect for K-State and the fans, said, you know what? I don't think that I can do this quite to the level anymore that I would like to or that they deserve. I'm going to get out and hand it off at the appropriate time to a more than fitting successor. And K-State fans should be very grateful for that, whether it works out or not for Colin Klein as the head coach at K-State. So we know that Gene kind of got a get out of jail free card with how that happened. I don't know if that's going to happen here, and he's going to have to work all the magic in the world to either fix this problem, whether it's, resetting the program in some way or making darn sure that for the first time in 4 years next year, this staff has figured out how to put a winning team on the floor, because K-State basketball is in a spot resource-wise where they should be in the NCAA tournament almost every year.
And comfortably.
Yeah, look, there's, they're not going to be up at the top of the world with Houston and Arizona and in Kansas and in most normal years, Texas Tech, but they are clearly in a spot where, number one, like the historical nature of the program would suggest that they should be there. But we know from the financial resources that have been dished out the last 2 seasons, certainly this team should be in that position, and they should not be in the spot where they're at to be one of the worst K-State basketball teams in a long, long time. So that's a problem where things sit right now. Fan, do you see anything with this team that can be fixed or that you view as a positive if you're trying to really trick yourself into thinking that this is going to get back on the rails? Forget this season. We know it's lost, but even next year?
It's tough because I mean, and this is true for almost everybody. You don't see developmental programs anymore beyond just a handful of teams, and maybe even those teams 2 or 3 players. Like, you've got Castillo, but that's about it. If Kostic stays and you can develop him, and and maybe Rapiak, but who knows on him because he's been out for so long. It's tough to thread the needle and find, well, 2 or 3 of your best 7 or 8 players are on the roster right now. Like, your only hope is a stab in the dark that somehow, and this season's far from over for this team, and we've still not completely believed in them. Your only hope is that somehow Tang pulls a Johnny Dawkins and brings in a whole new roster that somehow gets himself on the bubble in late January, which Dawkins does have UCF at that point right now. But that's the only needle I can thread, is that you rebuild your roster and you somehow get lucky like UCF has. And there's still no guarantee they'll make it. They have a tough schedule left and a lot of work to do to stay in this bubble conversation. But that's the only hope I see. I mean, Castillo could probably be one of your best 3 or 4 players next year. But after that, it's hard to see that guy on your roster unless it's Kostic and you somehow keep him around. And after that, it's not Xavier Wilson. I don't see him becoming that guy, or Stephen Osei, or anybody else that we have here. So that's where it's tough, is you can't look at the current makeup of this team and say, well, this could get better next year. You could do that with Cam and Barry and Dean. You could even squint at it at the end of Bruce with some of the guys he had.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing like that right now to find on this team.
Well, how many players at K-State have ever gone from like non-medical red shirt at any point in their career to legitimate player? Like it just doesn't happen. Like DJ Johnson got that medical red shirt, but he was playing before that, came back, was an even better player after that moment. Like that's where it's just, and they talk so much about these red shirts. Oh, nobody's red shirting now. If you're good enough to play at this level, you're playing immediately. You're becoming an asset. And the other thing, like we've talked at length about the Tyreek Smith thing, how insane that notion was. He certainly didn't deserve a waiver. I don't care about how he got conned at Memphis. I would maybe assume that notable con man Penny Hardaway, who's not very good at his job, is probably going to con you. I don't have any sympathy for Tyreek Smith in that situation. And I certainly don't have any sympathy for the K-State staff and bringing him in when you knew that he needed a waiver to be able to play this year. But Stephen Osei, again, we talked about it at the time. It made 0 sense to bring a player in like that. He wasn't overly dominant as a big man at the JUCO level, not very good JUCO at that, by the way. And then he comes to K-State and they're like, oh, that's a redshirt guy. Well, then he plays in 3 games and they still, I think that they're going to get a red shirt out of him. It's like, what's going on there? Like, that's another one of those things where it tells me that things aren't necessarily based in reality right now with what's going on with this program, because I get it. You think that these rules are whimsical at times from the NCAA, but you have to have at least some understanding that there are certain ones that are still going to be enforced, and you can't just be thinking, oh, we'll be fine. That's not going to apply to us. And I think that's kind of the thing right now, is that this staff has thought there are a lot of things. It's the meme from Arrested Development where Tobias is talking to Lindsay about, trying different things for their marriage to make it work out. And she says, has it worked for other people? And he goes, no, but it could work for us. Like, that is legitimately how K-State basketball is trying to run things right now, where it's like, was anybody else redshirting to success in basketball? No, but maybe, we could be the ones that do it. Well, did it work out for Michigan with Doug McDaniel? No, but it could for us. Oh, did Illinois really want Coleman Hawkins back for a 5th year? No, but it could for us. Oh, well, PJ Haggerty, he's already been at 3 different schools. Like, is it gonna stick with you this time? No, but it's just over and over again. All these things that it's already been tested essentially, and it's not going to work. And this staff is trying to fix it.
It is honestly sad how far it's fallen, and I'm just thinking back to everything that's happened at this point. It's like this year was kind of felt over before it started when the Tyreek Smith thing fell through, because they were banking so much of the season on somehow getting him a waiver. They took Stephen Osei, and immediately when Joe Tipton puts out that he's committing to K-State, says in the article that K-State is planning to redshirt him because he wasn't going to be able to play. That is a weird thing to do, knowing that, again, the whole Tyreek Smith thing was still happening during that standpoint, that they didn't know if he was going to be able to play or not, and went ahead and added somebody that they knew couldn't play. And then your best Euro is actually Doreen Buka, who wouldn't be on the team if Tyreek Smith could play. It's just, I don't know how it gets better. And I know that Fan kind of laid it out of you're going to have to Johnny Dawkins this. I am so sick of blowing up a roster year after year and having to really talk myself into oh, this could work maybe. At some point, you have to have some continuity. College basketball is even crazier than football in terms of player movement. But the teams that are good enough have roster continuity. And now when you're bad, you have 0 roster continuity. And I am so sick of this. Oh, we were horrible, so now we got to bring in 10 guys because nobody's good enough to stay, and we don't really want to keep a lot of these guys. And it makes the program very like dark and not in a good place when we're staring down the barrel here of a fourth straight off season where K-State just blows it up.
Well, so here's a fun little exercise for everybody. We've gone through X amount of years now. Say that eligibility wasn't a thing, which we know this staff believes. It's a made up thing. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean anything. Surprised they didn't try to get a waiver from Marquise Noel. Maybe they still will try to bring that out. In the 4 seasons now at K-State, how many guys from the team prior would you have said, I want him back? Again, we're not even like eligibility doesn't have to be a thing, because certainly there's a handful from year one. The guys that were actually eligible to come back, they told one of them not to, which we thought was kind of crazy at the time. It turned out to be even crazier. But like, to me, that's kind of the point where last year's team, Castillo was the only one that we were kind of like, yeah, come back, like maybe. But even that, we
were
on.
very borderline about Castillo. This year, I would want Castillo and Taj back because in this era, I still want a player to play 5 years at one school and have it be Taj.
Well, I would say, like, right now, I would take Buka back next year. The only problem is that you can't even say that with this staff, because like they bring a guy back, he's not going to be in the right role. They brought CJ Jones back, who was in the transfer portal. Nobody else wanted him. They said, hey, please come back. And it's like, okay, like we did a show about it, Drew, and I was like, this is kind of concerning to me. But everybody's like, no. You don't get it. You don't get it. Like he's not gonna. And here's CJ Jones playing. How much did he play tonight? In the total part of the game? Let's see. 13 minutes tonight. Too many. He took 4 shots tonight. Too many. Like, he came back, and his role is way bigger than it should have been on this team. And like, that's a problem. So like, I can't say I want Buka back, because like if they bring Buka back, they might just be apt to say, well, hey, we got our starting center ready to go next year. There's 28 minutes long. It's like, no, that should be like 12 minutes.
The other hard part about Buka is that he will be listed as a senior next year. So like, that also makes this a kind of difficult situation to assess, navigate.
Yeah, so I would say, Castillo, you want back, clearly. Manning, totally fine with. Like, it's not going to cost anything. I know some people still get up in arms about it. It's like, the dude plays hard. This team clearly doesn't have enough of those guys. You shouldn't realistically be using all of these roster spots on a regular basis. If he wants to be here, you let him. That's fine. Andre Kostic, I want him back. I wanted him back before he made 4 threes in the first half tonight. I know he's a baller. Oh, hey, by the way, you know who else knew Andre Kostic was a baller? The same guy that got Keaton Wagler and nobody else did, Brad Underwood. So you can take that for what it's worth. Like, it's just there haven't been enough of those guys that you say, I want him back. And that's where they end up in a problem as well. So we see kind of the epitome of that tonight and how this plays out for this team. Just some other interesting things rolling through and everything else. There apparently was some exchange after the game tonight with Jerome Tang and Melvin Council, where in the handshake line, Melvin Council gives kind of a look back after he went through. I would be fascinated to know what went down there. I have zero issue with what Melvin Council did tonight. We've been about this before. Like rivalries, you want the players to be as engaged as fans are. So getting that, you have it. And I think it was Council that said after the game that they had been watching video of K-State celebrating the last 3 years after the wins to kind of get them going. So like, totally okay with all that. It's just, it starts to look really fishy for Jerome Tang when he repeatedly in handshake lines is in the middle of this stuff. And that's something that you have to avoid, where it's just, you know what, if you're going to get beat like that, just shake the hand, move on. You don't even need to open your mouth, because I mean, look, I've been all about the handshake line is just so stupid in sports. Like, who cares? Like, you're there to beat somebody. You don't need to be touching each other after the game, whatever. But if you are, like, you don't have to say anything. You're not obligated to say anything. Those are not your guys over there. Don't say anything to them. This is like, Coach K with his Dylan Brooks thing, like, he fortunately ended up being right in the long term on that side of things. But
rivalries are also fun when both sides have people that are playing hard and showing a lot of emotion. When you're the team that doesn't and you're getting your butt kicked on your home court, it doesn't feel very good.
Well, also like I don't know obviously what the energy was like in Bramlage tonight, but to me, like we know how we felt about it, how other people felt about it, like how fake manufactured was the energy inside of Bramlage tonight as opposed to past ones, because that's the other part of this too. We're like clearly the K-State fan base, this is the least engaged that they've ever been in this thing. And it's like, and they're not even the team that won infinity straight in this rivalry. it's it's really insane the stage that this thing is sitting at right now for K-State. One specific game thing tonight. Just do I not understand the purpose of this offense when I see like the opportunity to push the ball and guys running down the floor that aren't looking to receive the ball or passes that aren't getting made to like what's going on here? Is there a disconnect between what Matthew Driscoll tried saying they wanted to do in the offseason versus what guys are actually doing? Because I'm baffled. I see things I go, you should be passing it there. You should be pushing it. And they're just not. It's so selective and it kind of blows my mind.
Well, they have. I mean, today was the slowest game they've played all season, 65 possessions. And I think part of that was what KU forced us to do and there were, I agree with you. I thought there were times when we could push the ball up the court, and we were the fastest team in the Big 12 coming into this game as far as pace goes for a reason. Like that is one thing Driscoll has put in that we have actually accomplished. To me, the bigger extent is we have no answer for what teams have done to us since our early season success with offense. Like we were legitimately pretty good offensively through probably the Nebraska game. And since then, we've seen teams have answers and we don't have any answer to what they've done to us. I talked about it last time. You got to have answers to the answers that people present to you. And then you've got to keep pushing the ball and not let KU make this a 65 possession type of game, because K-State's never going to win those games like that. They've got to score in transition and get going up and down. And and I think part of that is just self-coaching circles around Jerome Tang as well. I think that was the biggest thing is Tang got out-coached. Now, Self is going to out-coach a lot of people. Like he's still legitimately one of the best coaches in the country, even though I don't think he's nearly as good as building a roster as he used to be. Like you mentioned redshirts, they've got 3 guys that they redshirted on that roster that aren't in their top 4 or 5 players.
Oh, well, they might actually end up being good then.
So, I mean, their best players are when you go out and get the number 2 high school recruit in the country and you go out and get a couple pretty decent transfers.
And he stayed? He didn't leave?
Yes. So, I mean, that's the key. And like I said, Bill Self can still coach and he's excellent at it. And he took what K-State wanted to do away, and eventually the toughness of his team took over the game, and we saw them take over down the stretch, which is what Bill Self teams do when they play well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As everybody knows, I am a closet Bill Self guy. Look, I hate KU, but I'm nobody is more engaged when Bill Self talks than I am. That guy, I could listen for days. Obviously, he does a great job with KU and had them ready to go tonight. They were fired up for it, and K-State wasn't. And that's the state of things right now. I think this was pretty predictable. I just didn't see a world in which Bill Self was okay with losing 4 straight to K-State in this series. So I wasn't surprised to see it get done. I was a little surprised that it ended up being as lopsided as it was, not because of what I think K-State is, or again, the fight. We've seen really bad K-State teams against the number 1 team in the country hang tough and lose by 4 points. That was not the case tonight for K-State. All right. Anybody else got anything else you need to get off the chest? We'll take a final call for the comments here and get to anything that's there. I think I may have one. We had one question about what teams do they beat looking at the schedule now. It's kind of what we talked about going back to last week. Like they've already had so many games. You go, if you're not going to win that one, which one do you win? And that kind of continues to be the state of things for K-State. It's like you beat Utah. That was maybe the last game that they could win this year based off how they're playing, because every other game around it.
They can still beat Baylor.
Baylor, that's right. Yes.
Baylor is awful.
The guy that taught Jerome Tang everything he knows. That's the only other team they might be able to beat this year.
I mean, like Cincinnati, TCU, West Virginia at home, like, and Baylor, you got those 4 at home. I mean, I think they win 2 of those probably and finish with 3 or 4 Big 12 wins. Like, yeah. I could see that happen. You still go to Colorado. Colorado's a terrible team as well, but who knows if this team can win a road game?
But I think some of these teams just have more fight to them than K-State. You know,
Baylor
like Colorado showed fight on Tuesday night or whenever. Yeah, it was Tuesday night against KU with Darren Peterson. You know, K-State wasn't able to show it when. So that's just one of those things that kind of stings again. Also, I see Hayden's comment about Mason really missed the hot dog and toilet water. Yeah, hey, look, hand up. I'm sorry that I wasn't there to hook you guys up. So we'll roll it over. First 5 to see me, because K-State did earn it for you against Utah Tuesday night. First 5 to find me next Sunday against Iowa State. Hot dogs on me. And again, I'm not doing drinks, so that's where the toilet water comment comes from. But yes, first 5 to find me against Iowa State, I will give you a dog, and hopefully the weather's not bad. And I'm going to say it quietly so she doesn't hear me. My wife doesn't guilt trip me into not going. I probably would have made the safe decision to not go. She would have heard by the context. I made the smart decision to not go on my own, but I was a little like, she was pushed that way a little bit. And now she's going to see this and she's going to think that I'm being 100% serious. Part of this is playing up, the character and the entertainment value of this podcast. Anyways, so yes, dogs for people that find me on Sunday against Iowa State next week. And I will buy you a second hot dog if you bring a sign to the game saying that you're boycotting the baby race because they did my daughter dirty and didn't let her in. Because despite what the haters in the promotions department at K-State thought, my daughter is crawling right now with more than a week to go. So the rigorous training that we've put in, we've seen immense growth from her. No red shirts in this family for crawling. So that's just what I'm throwing out there to everybody. So yeah, K-State won't be back home until next Sunday against Iowa State. That could get ugly because you know who else is probably very highly motivated to embarrass Jerome Tang in K-State? It would be TJ Otzelberger, the guy that was accused of cheating by K-State. So that is the next home game for K-State. They do play in the middle of the week against West Virginia. Criminally late game for starting in Morgantown. I think it starts at like 7 o'clock. But I was kind of hoping for a 6 o'clock start. So yes, I would. We'll be here 7:30 start time for West Virginia. So shortly after, we'll be live discussing whatever takes place in that game and see what kind of fight K-State has in them. But that will do it for now. And we only have 11 more of these to go, guys. Well, 12, Big 12 tournament. But those are fun. We enjoy the Big 12 tournament no matter what K-State is doing. So we'll get out of here. Hope everybody else has a good night. If you're listening in the car, I hope you get home safe. God bless everybody for going out and witnessing this product tonight.